Welcome back, focused learners, to another explainer. Today, we're unpacking an incredibly fascinating philosophical framework from Life and Energy by Tao 1, specifically diving into the cosmic and psychological theories presented in the chapter of Preaching Tao. This piece lays out a highly unique, all-encompassing theory about the universe, human psychology, and the invisible forces driving literally everything we do. It seamlessly blends these massive cosmic theories with the nitty-gritty realities of our daily relationships. It's like a giant puzzle. So let's explore its bold claims about why we argue, why we seek out partners, and what the ultimate solution to human conflict might actually be.
Okay, let's dive into this cognitive roadmap. First up, we'll look at the Triad of Life. Then, the battle for energy. Third, yin, yang, and relationships. Fourth, the illusion of control. And finally, tapping into infinite energy. We're going to journey all the way from the foundational rules of the universe right down into our daily, messy human interactions.
Section 1. The Triad of Life and the Cosmic Rules of Existence.
To truly understand the micro level of human interaction, we first have to understand the macro level claims this text makes about the universe itself. The premise here is that the universe is essentially one giant energy mass utilized by life. But it isn't just random. The argument posits that there are only three essential components to absolutely all life: structure, consciousness, and energy. Take away any single one of these and life ceases to exist. But here is where a really specific definition comes in. Energy on its own, without a structure, the text says it's merely powerless chaos. However, when energy attaches to a structure, like a plant, an animal, or human being, it becomes what is called holographic. This holographic energy is ordered. It's powerful. Unordered chaotic energy has zero power, but ordered holographic energy is where true power and life actually manifest. And because different structures naturally absorb different types of energy, this creates a constant dynamic flow across the whole universe. And this brilliantly illustrates the author's core argument through a simple metaphor. You plant a seed. That's the structure, right? Immediately, it begins to absorb energy from its environment to grow strong. But the very moment it begins to lose more energy than it absorbs, life perishes. The idea here is that the entire process of life, for absolutely any organism, is fundamentally a competition for energy. Those who acquire more energy thrive. Those who acquire less have incredibly fragile existences. It frames the entire universe as this ongoing, relentless energy competition.
Section 2. The battle for energy, rising and falling in the river of life. We're shifting gears now from the cosmic scale of seeds and the universe straight into human psychology. The text makes a bold connection between universal energy and highly recognizable everyday human traits. Bad tempers, depression, constant complaining, holding on to hatred, or even just an eagerness for fame. Normally, we might view these as personality quirks or emotional issues, but this framework offers a radically different diagnosis. It claims these are simply symptoms of unmet energy needs. A person with a bad temper, for example, isn't just angry. They're actively experiencing a severe lack of energy. Their needs are entirely unmet, and these behaviors are just the external symptoms of a deep internal energy deficit. So, the crucial point is, if we're all walking around as structures, trying to absorb energy just to survive, how does this play out in our closest relationships? Why exactly do children rebel against their parents? And why do couples fight? Well, the text has a controversial yet undeniably fascinating answer to this.
Section 3. Yin, Yang, and Relationships. The Quest for the Opposite.
The theory leans heavily into duality as the primary driver behind human connection. It divides universal energy into two distinct categories, yin and yang. Yang energy, the text claims, forms matter and is inherently possessed by males. Conversely, yin energy forms the soul and is inherently possessed by females. The fundamental argument here is essentially a state of perpetual lack. It suggests females lack yang energy and males lack yin energy. Therefore, according to the source, we're biologically and spiritually driven to seek out exactly what we're missing. The framework even reinterprets classical psychology entirely through this energy lens. It neutrally proposes that the Oedipus and Electra complexes aren't quite what traditional psychology says they are. Instead, they represent a child's unconscious quest for missing energy from their opposite-sex parent. Girls are drawn to their fathers because they need yang energy, and boys to their mothers for yin energy. Furthermore, the idea suggests that when children grow up and rebel, it's actually a dual tactic. They're implicitly trying to protect their own energy from being depleted by the parents, while simultaneously demanding more energy through the very act of rebellion itself. And as those children grow into adults, parental energy becomes insufficient. At this point, the text posits that we turn to the opposite sex. This means that seeking lovers or entering into a marriage is ultimately an unconscious drive to acquire the specific energy we lack. Even if people are completely unaware of it, the underlying motivation is energy acquisition. The argument goes so far as to suggest that the more powerful a man is, the more he requires a woman's gentle yin energy, and, of course, vice versa.
Section 4. The illusion of control, plundering in the name of love.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the theory explores the darker implications of this energy battle. What begins as a quest for connection often mutates into a quest for domination. This concept is scaled up with a massive, bold claim. All human conflicts, from massive world wars between nations to disputes between political parties and religions, all the way down to a marital argument in a living room, stem from the exact same root cause: energy theft. Humanity, according to this framework, has learned to acquire energy by controlling others. If you can control a person, an organization, or a country, their energy essentially becomes yours.
To ground this rather abstract philosophy, let's look at some highly relatable micro-examples between spouses. At the beginning of a relationship, mutual love causes both partners to freely release energy to one another. But as that initial love energy is consumed, the plundering begins. Throwing tantrums, arguing, giving the silent treatment, or sulking are framed here not as simple communication issues, but as subconscious tactics to vie for a partner's energy. Even jealousy is described as a way to control social interactions to prevent energy leakage to outside sources.
But there's a stark, powerful warning about this behavior. Take a look at this quote. The intention to control others not only harms them, but also depletes yourself. It's totally a zero-sum game. The very act of trying to dominate another person, of trying to steal their energy to fill your own void, ultimately exhausts your own reserves and destroys the very relationship you're trying to maintain. It is, ultimately, an exercise in complete futility.
Section 5. Tapping into infinite energy, releasing the need to dominate.
So, how do we break this cycle? Having diagnosed the problem on both a cosmic and personal level, the philosophy zooms back out to reveal the author's spiritual solution, and it's quite radical. It argues that if humans are to coexist peacefully with nature and with each other, the effort to control one another must be completely abandoned. Period. And it means this at every single level of society. The radical conclusion is that nations, political parties, and religious organizations must dissolve because they're inherently built on control. And on the personal level, couples must entirely relinquish their domination over each other to ever actually achieve true happiness. Let's move to and see how this builds into the final instructions. If we aren't getting energy from other people, where does it come from? The author outlines a 4-step pathway for an enduring life. Step 1. Elevate your frequency of thought away from constantly taking. Step 2. Recognize beauty and cultivate truly selfless love. Step 3 reveals a bit of a paradox. You must freely release energy because only by releasing it can you receive more. And finally, Step 4, connect directly to the source. You stop relying on fragile human interactions and instead obtain an endless, constant flow of energy directly from the universe, or the greatest creator. It's a profound shift in perspective, isn't it? Viewing every argument, every relationship, and every worldly conflict as just a misguided scramble for a limited resource, when an infinite supply is supposedly just waiting for us. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to ponder based on today's explainer. Will you continue exhausting yourself in the endless battle to control others? Or will you learn to release your grip and tap into the infinite? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.